Welcome back to another episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, the podcast where we talk about making massive income, not just passive income. Today is a Friday episode. It's a monologue with me as your host, Dan Austin. I'll keep this one short and sweet, and I want to talk about the serendipitous situations that help you make money here in real estate, just because they've been kind of piling up lately. And they've literally been just by me being in the right place at the right time. And we don't necessarily talk about that enough. We always talk about, you always hear like, oh, go networking. I talk a lot from the dispo side because that's what I focus on right now in our business. You got to talk to your buyers. You got to connect with real estate agents because they also have buyers. You got to do all this stuff. Like this episode's not about this. This episode is just to really show you where, in fact, you can monetize by being in the right place at the right time. And I have a few examples I wrote down, and I'll get to one of them that really made me think about this from last week. But anyways, like it's so important to be active. And that's how a lot of stuff, I mean, Mike and I have made our money just by being active, by putting ourselves out there, by talking to people, by putting stuff on social media. I know it sucks. I am the worst at social media. I hate it the most, but putting yourself out there is just as much, it's a good example of doing that virtually, which you can do anywhere from your cell phone. And in a comparison of being in like a meetup or going to lunch with somebody or being at a conference where you're going to meet people, right? Like social media accomplishes that sort of. Being in person, I think still can vastly, outpace that or do better. But in lieu of that, social media, you can reach a lot more people, especially if you're like popular or you're cool or you know what you're doing. Like I'm none of those things. So I post on social media and I actually get some feedback from people and have done deals that way. So it's worth it. But anyways, I digress. Back to my point of the serendipity that happens by putting yourself out there. I'm going to give you the number one example, not the number one, but my first example on how this works. This was not too long ago. And actually all of these examples are just from this year. So, anyways, I was walking a property with another wholesaler. I didn't want to buy the property. Didn't really care that much about it, but I knew the wholesaler. I hadn't done a deal with him in a long time, maybe a couple years. And so I was like, I'm going to go check out this property, just go walk it, shake his hand, say hi to him, see what's going on. And also it's good to kind of see what other products people are selling. And so I didn't want to waste his time, but it's because I was looking for a flip, but I wasn't really confident I was going to buy this one. So I went there, met him, walked it, and it worked out really, really well. Like him and I chatted, had a good time, told him why I didn't want to buy it, and he totally understood. Well, like a week later, he called me and he said, "Hey man, I can't find any buyers for this. Like, you know anybody?" And I literally happened to be having coffee with a guy who's a flipper here in town. And I just said, "Hey, you want to buy a flip right now? Blah, 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 blah. Address. Here it is. Here's what it looks like. Here's my opinion on it." "Yeah, sure. I'll buy it." Boom. $5,000 right there. Literally, I just said, "Hey, just, give me $5,000 for this. And for the connection for the JV setup." And it was literally just putting myself out there, walking a property, having coffee with another flipper, and everybody's in a good mood. We're all buzzing on caffeine, and it just made it happen, and that to me is like, that is the ultimate serendipity, just being in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people. But it had to start by me getting out there. Another good example of this was, and this isn't necessarily going to be open to everybody, but as you get more experience in your market and people get to know you more, you'll get asked to speak at events and stuff like that. I was speaking at an event and didn't think anything of it, made some introductions, talked to some people, put my phone number up on the whiteboard. "Hey, if you guys ever have anything, give me a call. This is the number." I was sitting there, I was traveling, I was like out of town somewhere. And I get a random phone number. And like, if you're in this business, you end up answering random phone numbers if it's not filtered for spam anyways, which sucks because sometimes you get caught talking to some dummy. But anyways, I answer the phone and it's a real estate agent. Never met her. She said, "Hey, this person referred me to you, gave me your name and your phone number and said that you buy off-market houses." And I was like, "Yeah, I absolutely do. You talking to the right person." So I talked to the lady for a bit. She had I think it was her sister that had passed. So her niece, her nieces were trying to sell the property. Funny enough, it's in the same neighborhood as that last example I just shared with you. But anyways, I basically said, "Yeah, sure." She's like, "I'm trying to help them. I know you guys can do fast closes, but it's got to be a good price. It's got to be a good price." And she was really pushing. she was right. It's a great neighborhood. It's a great spot. So it definitely demanded a decent price. So went out there, we walked it, good little property. Told her, I don't know that I could get you an offer that you're going to want. Gave her the whole spiel. Here's our cash offer. Here's what we could do. And, we kind of did the whole song and dance, but either way, we ended up wholesaling it. We made like $15,000 on the wholesale deal. And it worked out great because they got to do what they need, which is move the house fast. They got a good price and we were able to make a little bit of money on that too. But again, it's like just happened to be in the right spot at the right time with the right people that also were in the right spot at the right time. When they get a phone call from some real estate agent and they're like, that's not my game, but I know a guy and I liked what he was saying at this meetup. Right. So there's these opportunities. And then I'll close out with this example, and then I'll just talk a little bit more into detail on things that I see work for people. But, golly, this was a couple years ago. I got cold called by a commercial broker looking to offload a duplex. She called me. She's like, hey, I see on the county records that you own this duplex that you bought last year. I have a duplex that's just like that. Would you want to buy it? And I was like, oh, send it my way. So I looked at it and I told her, I said, hey, this is too nice for me. I buy really, really crappy houses. If you find any really crappy duplexes, definitely give me a call. But I said, I really appreciate your hustle and your cold calling to do this, and just left it at that. And then Mike and I had an 8-unit property that we were going to sell, and we wanted to sell it with a commercial broker. We wanted to try that anyways because it was in a rural area, and just throwing it on the MLS, we just didn't feel super confident that it would get the traction it needs. In hindsight, and maybe we could have. But anyways, guess who I called? I called this lady. And I said, hey, guess what? Remember that guy you cold called? Well, yeah. She said, yeah. And I was like, well, that's me. I'm the one dummy that answered the phone. And guess what? I'm going to give you my 8-unit listing. Would you want to do this? And she did, and she sold it for us. We made money. We got what we wanted for it. It was a great deal. Transaction was fine. And then I just personally stayed in touch with her. She stayed in touch with me, and I told her what I'm looking for. I told her several things that I am looking for. She's a commercial agent. Hey, if you come across these sorts of things, I'm your guy. And again, as serendipity would have it, we've bumped into each other at different real estate events, at just different things. Like I'm having coffee with somebody and she happens to be at the same coffee shop, right? Spokane is not a small town, but it's not a big town either. So it happens more often than you think. And the other day, I was sitting there having lunch with another investor here in town, just casually having lunch, sitting in this newer restaurant. Well, she happens to be behind me having lunch with one of her groups that she's the president of. Spots me, sees me. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. And like, honestly, we actually talk pretty regularly now. It's kind of funny how that this works out, just because there's enough crossover in what we're trying to do. She helped us get an office recently too. So anyways, just these little small incidents, right? And then I'm top of mind. So she calls me. She's like, hey, I've got this strip mall. It's a great deal. It's here in town. It's off market right now. Would you want to take a look at it? 100% I want to take a look at it. I don't know if I'm going to buy it, but I want to be the first person you call when you're going to send it out to me. I want to be on your short list. And so I'm right now underwriting, a strip center here in town. That could be a good deal, could be a terrible deal. It may never work out. If it works out, obviously I'm going to do a podcast because I'd be so excited that it works out. But it's those weird circumstances where you just happen to do something by putting yourself out there, and the universe pays you back. And I want to share this as an example because we see it in our scale community where people finally start really turning the corner. And it's funny, the time that they start turning the corner from not doing any deals in the off-market space to starting to do deals, it's right when they make one good connection, or they start putting themselves out there and they start connecting the dots of the market and who the right people are to call. But sometimes it literally just takes that one connection. Hold on. What's that?
You also saw one of the texts was right down.
I did not.
Can't find that.
Okay, I'll be upset with it. Sorry about that. Can you please cut that out, Max? Or do something that makes me sound really cool. Anyways, where was I at? A lot of times I see it's that one person that they connect with, that one really well-connected real estate agent, that one wholesaler, that one flipper, and they do that one deal. And now they have the next one in the pipeline, and the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. And this all comes from putting yourself out there and being in a situation that, and honestly, it's never the situation that you try to put yourself in. It's something adjacent, something tangent. So if you're at that point where you're kind of stuck, you're beating your head off the wall, or you're trying to offload a deal, or you're trying to scale your business, you're trying to do something, think about these examples of serendipity. Honestly, none of the money I made on any of these weren't directly correlated to what I was trying to accomplish in those moments when I was there. The one where I made $5,000, I was literally having coffee with another flipper because I was, just keeping up with them, seeing where their business was at. And I literally got a phone call from something that took place a week prior to that. I wasn't never connecting those two. I wasn't trying to. So think about that. Like, what can you do to get yourself out there and do it? And I'm going to give you one last example, and I'll leave you with this, a little teaser here. Maybe we'll talk about it later. But, Mike and I started our hard money lending company, and that has taken off with fire, not because we have all sorts of money and we can loan it out, not because we're better lenders than people, not because we have better terms, anything like that. We do have better terms than a lot of people, and we are better lenders. But more importantly, we've talked about it, and we've talked to a ton of different people. We were building experience over a long period of time as flippers, as wholesalers, as buy and hold investors, as business owners. We've talked to people. We've gone out there, and we've told people what we're doing, and we've put ourselves in situations where you have me talking to somebody, they connect the dot and say, hey, this deal looks really good. Can you guys loan on it, right? And so that is really underpinned our ability to do deals. So when we bring on investors, we have all these great borrowers that are solid people because we've really underwritten them over years. And then we also have all these great investors that want to join on and see what we're doing. And that's because, we put ourselves in those positions. And sometimes serendipity is all you need. I'd rather be lucky than good, as they say. And so just think about that. Put yourself in situations. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. Sometimes it's going to be scary. You might not know anybody in the room, or you might not necessarily want to have to go spend your afternoon having coffee with somebody, but do it, because that weird thing, when that person runs into somebody that they know, and then that person knows you now, all over a cup of coffee, and now you have a lender, now you have a buyer, now you have somebody that can coach you on flips, whatever it is. That all happens. It all happens to you. You just have to do it and really put yourself out there and believe in the universe really paying you back. That's a little like woo woo here, but I'm serious. I just gave you 3 examples. I could have given you a dozen more examples, not because I was putting in the work, but just because I was in the right place at the right time. But you have to get out of your office. You have to get out of your shell. You have to go do those things for serendipity to play. So I'll stop saying that word because it's kind of hard for me to say, and I will leave you with this. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Hit me up on Instagram if you think serendipity is dead and it's not a real thing, at InvestorManDan. I'd love to chat with you about it, or any deals you have, or anything you're doing. So, other than that, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you guys next week.